This is the story of a dream which began in the mind of one man, Georges Doriot, a professor at Harvard who understood the need to create a business school for Europe that would be based in France while being truly diverse, independent, and close to business. In the post-war period of the 50s, Europe was looking for a new identity. In March 1957, the Treaty of Rome led to the European Economic Community. The time was right for Doriot's dream to become a reality. All he required was the vision, energy, and talent of a few loyal supporters. The committee developed a firm set of operating principles and a pioneering curriculum for a program that was to become the world's first one-year MBA. The search for premises that would match our requirements was difficult, given that we had no government or university backing. A remarkable solution was found in the Fontainebleau Palace, a palace which had always been witness to different kinds of leadership, from hundreds of years of royalty to military heads of state. But from 1959, the chateau would be alive to a new kind of leadership, one that would be dedicated to bringing prosperity to war-ravaged Europe through business. On Saturday, the 12th of September, the opening ceremony of the first MBA intake took place. This first promotion was formed by 57 participants from throughout Europe, Morocco, and the US. Insead was already reaching out beyond the borders of Europe and embracing its destiny as a global school. Less than a year later, the promotion graduated, and the graduates immediately formed the Insead Alumni Association, a community which has now grown to over 56,000 alumni, distributed across 172 countries with 157 nationalities. Insead grew rapidly in size, quality, and reach, and by the mid-1960s, the school's need for a place of its own was becoming urgent. 5 hectares of land was found adjacent to the Fontainebleau forest, and the state-of-the-art campus was inaugurated in 1967. Faithful to its founding principle of being close to business, Insead launched its first executive education program in 1968 and steadily grew its portfolio and initiated customer-specific education. In 1974, following a first highly successful program focusing on Asian business, the institution launched a fundraising campaign which would result in the opening of Insead's Eurasia Center in 1980. Establishing a lasting and fruitful bond with Asia's business world. By the mid-1980s, Insead was recognized worldwide for its academic excellence and outstanding faculty. But without a doctoral program, it would never be considered the equal of top US schools. In 1989, the school welcomed its first 6 doctoral students, as outstanding as they were diverse. In 1996, after a successful fundraising campaign and building on the fruitful relationship initiated through the Eurasia Center, the board decided to make a bold move and build a full-service, equal-status campus in Asia. The MBA program, which had 2 intakes a year since 1983, would now run in parallel on the new campus in Singapore, so that participants could switch between sites. In true Insead style, the school did not wait for the campus to be built, and in September 1999 welcomed the first class of 53 pioneers from 25 countries in rented facilities. The Singapore campus was officially opened in September 2000 and has been growing ever since. In 2003, in response to increased demand for a part-time MBA degree, meeting the needs of senior executives, Insead launched its Executive MBA program, once again giving the well-established format its own distinctive twist. Within 5 years, the 14-month program would enter the rankings in the top 10. Yet another of Insead's ambitious ideas had been transformed through action into achievement. With sister campuses operating in Europe and Asia, Insead could live up to its promise of being the business school for the world, a position which would be reinforced in 2007 with the establishment of the Abu Dhabi Research Center, now grown to Insead's Middle East campus, hosting executive education, executive MBA, and MBA teaching. After 6 decades of groundbreaking initiatives, unparalleled education delivered, and an ever-increasing mark on the business community, in 2016 and 2017, the Insead MBA was ranked #1 globally by the Financial Times for 2 consecutive years, a reflection of the school's commitment to delivering world-class academic excellence in all its programs. The story began with one man and his remarkable vision of the future. But there is no question that without the actions of thousands of pioneers on 3 continents who have come together to build the business school for the world, Insead would still be an idea. And it is equally certain that our founding principles will continue to drive Insead to even greater achievements for many, many years to come. These achievements begin anew with every graduating class. Each class has gone on into the world to show how business can be a force for good. And we are sure this class of December 2018 will be no different.
Dear parents, partners, family members, friends, Insead faculty, alumni, and staff, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the graduation ceremony of the Insead MBA class December 2018 Fontainebleau edition. I'm Urs Peyer, I'm the Dean of the MBA program, and I'm joined here on stage by Ilian Mihoff, Dean of Insead, and our graduation speaker, Lucy Quist, MBA 2005J, former CEO of Airtel Ghana, and founder and CEO of Quist Blue Diamond. And I also would like to extend a very warm welcome to the 2 representatives from the Fontainebleau Mayor's Office. Please help me welcome them. Dear 18Js, today we celebrate your achievement of completing the most intense and global education in the world, the Insead MBA. And I'm happy to say that you have been an outstanding class. Parents, partners, friends, you can be really proud of all the achievements that each and every one of the graduates today has made. And this is contrary maybe to the social media impression you might have. The graduates did today really a lot more than networking, as Insead really brings together very talented and globally minded students to focus on basically 3 things: academic learning, career progression, and indeed networking. Let's look a little bit at the learning dimension, and this is to assure your parents, friends, spouses, and other financiers that you have done a lot. Insead's MBA is the most intense MBA in the world. You've managed to take 85% of the coursework of a 2-year MBA program in just 1 year. In addition, you have run a job search and learned tools and techniques to deal with future changes. You had to make choices between courses, field trips, interviews, job offers, and let's call them other competing commitments. It should thus not come as a surprise that the most attended elective is negotiations. So at this point, let me thank the Insead faculty, the PLDP coaches and staff for providing an inspiring learning environment, for challenging your thinking, sharing with you the theoretical underpinnings behind the tools used in practice so you can make more informed decisions in your future jobs, but also creating opportunities to learn from each other and test new behaviors in a safe environment as team members and leaders of a very diverse and global pool. These skills and competencies, I know, will come in very handy in your future careers. Careers that are taking many of you to new countries, new companies, new functions, and thanks also to the staff of the Career Development Center and the coaches, It seems that they have taken on the challenging opportunity to help you transform your careers very well. It seems that the 18Ds are going to more than 60 different countries for their next opportunities. And that seems to include London. So that spreading out across the world is really great. But it is also a bit sad, of course, to leave behind Insead. The upside, however, is that wherever you will go, you will find a very active Insead community and network. And you know how strong this Insead network has been from your year here on campus. As near as I could tell, you've done more than 100% of traveling and socializing of a 2-year MBA program. A big thank you goes to the many organizers among you for treks, club events, and so on, which really combine networking and career insights. Your energy and leadership around those has been exceptional. But also many thanks to the MBA team for all their support, be it around treks, clubs, national weeks, and academics. Really appreciate it. The networking has also brought entrepreneurial success stories among the 18Ds, formed with teams of 18Ds. So I'm very happy to give a shout out to 2 of your group of colleagues who have been involved in the Insead Venture competitions. So Julie, Jimmy, and Sebastian, who have won in July, already in the middle of the year, for their idea Tender Care, which is an idea to professionally care for elderly and Chinese families at reasonable prices and leveraging leading-edge technologies to improve their lives. But also I wanted to shout out to Viet and Andrew Locke for winning the 2nd prize this December for their company idea, Moringa Water, which again, through technology, helps to improve the supply chain and the production around water. So great for both of those. At Insead, have found each other, built a company, found a way to raise funds and compete in these great Insead Venture competitions and really succeed. So maybe we give a round of applause to all of those. And what is really encouraging among those ideas is that it really creates a great link and is instrumental to what Insead's mission is, which is around the business as a force for good, as Dean Mehoff will certainly talk about in a few minutes. But the networking does not stop at business relationships. When you were here 10 months ago at the opening and you looked around, what did you see? You know, remember those anxious moments? I'm looking here, so it's like, nah. It's not 2 years ago, it's just a year ago, okay? When you look back and you reflect on how many relationships you've built in the Insead community, I know that those relationships will carry forward. I know you will go to birthday parties and weddings, and some will become godmothers and godfathers of kids. Of your MBA friends, and you'll celebrate successes together. But I also know that through all of this, you will stand together in more difficult times and support each other, as you've built really a very supportive and caring network for each other. Let me end with my wishes for you. I truly hope that each and every one of you is graduating today, being richer in knowledge, ready to make a positive impact on the companies and people that you will be working with, but also being richer in friendships from around the globe. Good luck, class of 18D. Thank you. It's now my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dean Ilian Mehoff. Ilian has joined Insead in 1996 as a professor of economics, but Ilian started his distinguished academic career at Princeton University, where he received 2 fellowships for his PhD. The second one was specifically to collaborate with Ben Bernanke, former US Federal Reserve Chairman, and together They have published 4 academic papers, among them around the Great Depression, which came in very handy about 10 years ago. As an academic, he's been a frequent guest on CNBC Squawk Box, commenting on macroeconomic policies during the financial crisis. At Insead, before becoming dean, Ilian has been teaching the macroeconomic core course in the MBA and EMBA programs, winning Best Teacher Award several times. One of his MBA classes even created a song for him and published it on YouTube. It's called the Mihovian Rhapsody. Don't look it up right now. As a dean, among other many achievements, he has led the school to be recognized by the Financial Times as having the #1 MBA program in the world. But a less well-known fact is that Ilian was also nominated to be Deputy Prime Minister of Bulgaria, which, fortunately for us, he turned down. Please help me welcome Ilian Mihov, Dean of Insead.
Thank you very much, Urs, for this introduction. Dear family, friends, alumni, Insead faculty and staff, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the graduation ceremony of the MBA class of 2018D. And especially I want to welcome our graduates today. Today, it is the beginning and not the end of your relationship with Insead. So with Urs, we have a bit of a difference in opinion. You're not leaving Insead behind you. You're actually taking Insead with you because you are the Insead of the future. As our graduates, we believe that Insead has helped you prepare to embrace your new role in the world, where as a disruptor, transformational change agent, or an outstanding leader. Most importantly, I hope that our school has prepared you to be a force for good in the world. You saw this nicely done video about the history of Insead, and I think that I want to point out a couple of things from that video. When Georges Doriot conceived the idea of having a business school in Europe, he not only wanted to bring management education to Europe, but he viewed Insead as a place where we can promote peace and prosperity by bringing people from all over Europe. Today, we take peace in Europe for granted. But in 1957, just 12 years after the end of the Second World War, it was not so obvious. So to ensure that it is a European and international school, you could see the sign on the top of the first classroom. It was in French, English, and German, because anybody who studied at Insead at the time had to speak these 3 languages fluently. A marketing course could be in French, economics in English, and operations in German. And you have to take the exams in these languages. Georges Doriot, from day one, believed that Insead can have a very big impact in the world because he himself was about impact. He's considered to be the father of venture capital in the world. He was one of the first venture capitalists. But how this idea came to him is actually quite interesting. In 1946, he noticed that there are all these soldiers that were coming back from the war and there were no jobs. So he actually created his first venture capital fund in order to fund ideas of these people to find for them jobs. Insead today is one of the largest business schools in the world. But a lot of our DNA is coming from the first days when our school was created. You could see over the past 60 years, a lot has been achieved. Starting with 52 students in the Chateau of Fontainebleau, today we'll be graduating over 500 students between the 2 campuses. We have a campus in Abu Dhabi, and we have a new facility that will open in San Francisco. Insead started the first MBA program in Europe, the first 1-year MBA program in the world. We started the first company-specific programs, and so on and so forth. So with all these fantastic achievements, the big question is, what are we going to do now? What is next? And I think that all of us have a role to play in these next steps. The world is changing, and we realize that in the past 20, 25 years, tensions between business and society have been increasing. And at some level, it is a bit puzzling, because during the same period of time, when you look in emerging markets, when you look at East Asia in particular, hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. Just in China, from 840 million people in extreme poverty in 1980, today there are less than 20 million people. It's a miracle that had never happened in the world history before. And this miracle happened not because of government aid, not because of philanthropic giving, not because of foreign developmental aid from the World Bank, but because of one thing, and it is economic growth. And the only engine of economic growth is business creation. So business, as a force for good, can be easily illustrated by quoting numbers about poverty reduction, job creation, and value creation in general. But obviously this is not enough. Business as a force for good, interpreted in this narrow sense, is not sufficient, because despite all these great things that businesses are doing, we realize that there are still negative effects that business creates. So today, we have to ask ourselves, what can we do in order to reduce this tension between business and society, in order business people, entrepreneurs, leaders, have the responsibility to deliver better outcome for people around the world. And when we think about our usual approach to these questions, normally we would say, well, the government will deal with this. But unfortunately, the government is not enough. So this year, Insead started a new Institute for Business and Society, the Hoffman Global Institute for Business and Society, with an extremely ambitious goal. We want to change mindsets. We want to change management education. We don't want to change just Insead. We want to change the world. We want to do this because we realize that the norms we have today and we accept today as normal will not be accepted in the future. A couple of years ago, I read the book called Sapiens by Yuval Harari. I'm sure that many of you have read this book. And it dawned on me that we take for granted a lot of social constructs that are nothing more than an imagined reality. Actually, I would like to quote a couple of sentences from his book. Ever since the cognitive revolution, sapiens have been living in a dual reality. On the one hand, the objective reality of rivers, trees, and lions, and on the other hand, the imagined reality of gods, nations, and corporations. As time went by, the imagined reality became ever more powerful, so that today, the very survival of rivers, trees, and lions depend on the grace of imagined entities like the United States and Google. So today, we have to ask ourselves, what part of this imagined reality, of these social constructs, of these norms that we find acceptable today will be unacceptable 20, 30, 40 years from now? Because norms do change. 55 years ago, if you came to Insead, if you came to graduation at Insead, you will see only men in the classroom or at the graduation ceremony. And that was acceptable. When you look at the history of the world, you will see so many acceptable norms that today we find absolutely unacceptable. So we have to ask ourselves a very important question. What is the normal that is changing? We, the society today, we want business leaders who not only create phenomenally successful companies, but ones that in the process of creating value for their companies, they create also value for society and maximize their impact. Therefore, all of you matter, because you are the ones who are expected to deliver on this. In closing, I must charge you with a call to action for Insead. It is very tempting to give you inspirational phrases like aim high, challenge yourself, distinguish yourself, aim higher, be the best version of yourself, aim even highest and higherest. But instead of doing this, I will suggest three very simple things. Obviously, a lot of things are changing very rapidly these days. We are scared by the advance of technology. We do not completely understand what is happening there. But it is important to try to be inspired by these challenges. In March 2016, Alphago, the computer program developed by Google's DeepMind, managed to beat one of the world's leading masters in the Asian game of Go, the most complicated game in the world. Lee Sedol, one of the top players, lost 4 out of 5 games. What is interesting, however, is that Alphago performed several unexpected moves. In Game 2, Alphago performed the so-called Move 37 that surprised everybody who was watching the game. All of the observers, the experts, were shocked, and they could not understand why the computer will make such a, at that time, unexpected and possibly stupid move. Until later, they realized that that was a brilliant move. And they were saying this is 1 in a 10,000 probability move. Then in Game 4, Lee Sedol was behind in the game until he played his historic move 78. Lee Sedol won that game, and later he mentioned that this move, which also surprised everybody, was inspired by AlphaGo's move 37. So when we are scared by technology, we assume that we cannot respond. But I think that we do have unbelievable capacity to learn and innovate. So be inspired by these challenges and find your move 78. Second, and I think that this is to me and to our school is a very important call. If Insead is the business school for the world, we must ask you, how will you make Insead your own? And I want to ask, how will you specifically, uniquely, individually contribute to our mission of making business as a force for good in the world? We are a different business school. We're mission-driven, with strong values. We want you to be values-driven business leaders. We want the world to admire you, not only for what you have done for your company, but to admire you also for what you have done to make the world a better place. And the third thing is, please be true ambassadors for Insead. I don't have to tell you what Insead stands for. You have seen the diversity, the inclusion, tolerance, friendship. You know at Insead we have 94 nationalities. We have people from all over the world. It's the most diverse place in the world. You have to take this outside and fight for tolerance and diversity. And when governments are building walls, you should be building bridges. So, to sum up, be inspired by challenges, find your move 78, be humble and integrate the societal challenges in the strategy of your company. In every decision that you make, think, what is the impact on society? And the third thing is be a proud ambassador of Insead and our values. Let us continue to champion diversity, for it is the key to strengthening individuals, businesses, institutions, and society. I hope we will continue promoting peace and prosperity for every individual, community, and country in the world. We are proud that you chose to earn your MBA at Insead. I have no doubt that the MBA class of 2018D will change our world for the better and contribute much to the prominence of our alumni and our school, which you may now call your own. You are Insead. You are not only alumni now. You are our partners in this magical journey called Insead. Congratulations, thank you, and good luck.
Many thanks, Ilian, for these inspiring words. And as Ilian has mentioned, Insead has been established to bring together people from all around the world, and one of the founders, or one of the first to execute on the dream of Georges Doriot, is Claude Janssen, together with his wife, Tuliki Janssen. They have been starting and supporting the development of Insead in the past 60 years, including the establishment of the Singapore campus. But unfortunately, Claude cannot be here today, but he has recorded a short message for us to play.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear MBA graduates, on behalf of our founder, Georges Doriot, our chairman, Andreas Jacobs, and our entire board, I would like to congratulate you very warmly for having obtained your MBA. Insead has become one of the largest business schools in the world, by far the most international, with its 3 campuses in Singapore, Fontainebleau, and Abu Dhabi. You now belong to the family of alumni. You are about 50,000, half with an MBA, working in 175 countries. I just want to say a word about the alumni, because you are becoming alumni today, and you will be, like all the alumni, very important for the future. Since Insead is private and independent, it gives to you, the alumni, a special responsibility. Insead has only 2 constituencies, the faculty and the alumni. Without the faculty, there'd be no school. But without the alumni, there'd be no future. Alumni have played a growing role, and that's growing year after year. My 3 successors as chairman have all been alumni. A large majority of the board members are alumni. The presidents of the advisory council, of all board committees, of our foundations, a majority of the 25 national councils, all those are alumni. And a great part of the financial support comes from alumni or is initiated by alumni, and we'll speak about that with you strongly in the future. The future, therefore, is largely in the hands of alumni, since there is no university or official institution to back us. And I trust that many of you will engage in the support of the school, not only financially, but by being active in Insead's institution, and in particular in one of our 45 alumni associations. It is very important that the alumni take a big role in the development of Insead. Again, without that, there is no future for the school. Again, all my congratulations and best wishes for a very successful career for you and your families. And since we are close to Christmas, a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Thank you.
I now have the pleasure to introduce our graduation speaker, Lucy Quist, MBA 2005J. Lucy is former CEO of Airtel Ghana, the first Ghanaian woman to head a multinational telecommunications company. She's also the founder and CEO of Quist Blue Diamond, the company with the objective to creating the Africa where everyone prospers. And the company strives to achieve this by leveraging technology, engineering, data science, and transforming business models. The origins of this seems to be coming from Lucy's studies in electrical and electronic engineering, graduating with first-class honors degree from the University of East London, followed by Insead. After Insead, she worked for Ford Motor Company. She held C-level positions for a decade at Tigo, Vodafone, and Airtel. Her career spans both manufacturing, telecom, banking, automotive industries in Europe and Africa. And she has led technical, marketing, and sales functions team before becoming CEO. Lucy is very engaged for Africa. She's a co-founder of the Executive Women Network in Ghana, and in September 2018, FIFA also appointed her Vice President of the Normalization Committee to restructure and transform football in Ghana. She's also the recipient of several awards. 2014, she was named CIMG Marketing Woman of the Year. In 2016, Telecom CEO of the Year and CSR CEO of the Year. In 2017, she received the Corporate Leadership Award at the Ghana Legacy Awards. We're very happy to welcome back Lucy to Insead. Please help me welcome Lucy Quiz.
Our world needs you. Dean Ilian Mihov, Dean Erspire, leaders from the city of Fontainebleau, Insead faculty, staff of Insead, alumni, family and friends who are gathered here today, invited guests, and very most importantly, graduating class of December 2018, good afternoon. It's a privilege for me to deliver this year's graduation speech at Fontainebleau, and I'd like to personally thank Dean Mihov for this honor. Thank you very much. Being here today brings back wonderful memories for me. It was a glorious day on the 7th of July 2005, which is fresh in my mind, on which I graduated from Insead. And feeling that feeling again, the only thing I can say to you is, congratulations, class of December 2018, you made it. As I excitedly prepared for today, I cast my mind back to my Insead experience. What did I really do here in that year? I recall arriving at Insead on the 20th of August, 2004. I know for some of you that sounds really ancient, so forgive me. I arrived with a few suitcases, with my 5-month-old baby, my mother. My husband joined us a couple of days later to support us settling in and making sure that everything was okay, but then he had to go back to London. Such was my arrival. It took a whole army to get me here because I needed my child by my side. And one of the things I've discovered in life is that sometimes it does take an army of a support system to keep us going. I came to Insead for a very specific reason. You see, as a teenager, I had experienced what was a very difficult decade in Ghana's history in the 1980s. And it was in that time that I became convinced that business had a role to play in creating sustainable prosperity, because it looked to me like the politicians weren't doing a very good job of it. But I didn't know how business could play that role. I was just convinced that that was the case. And so after many years building my career and working as an engineer, I realized that ultimately I needed an MBA, very specifically to teach me how to run business end to end. That was my goal. I looked around, and given my global and very varied outlook on life and on the world in general, there was only one place for me, and it was called Insead. And so I ended up applying only to Insead because I was fortunate to get in when I applied. And when you find what you're looking for, you don't really bother looking elsewhere because there's nowhere else like it. I say that with a smile because Insead is finite. Insead is a great business school, but unfortunately, only a few people will have the privilege to experience what you and I have experienced. And so we should never, ever take our participation at Insead for granted. So now you've heard why I came here, but what happened while I was here? I am sure we could share notes. This afternoon, in talking to some of you, I realized that a few things have changed. Like, we didn't have iPhones and Snapchat at the time. We didn't even have WhatsApp. But there are some things that are the same. The groups. Cast your mind back to when you first got here and you were placed with a group. I was in a very diverse group. There was a Belgian who was never to be confused with being French. Didn't allow that. A Korean, a Turk, a Swiss-German guy with a Spanish name, and me. This is only Insead. Only Insead could possibly put together this kind of a group. And for the most part, we were a great collective. But there's always one or two where sometimes you have issues with. And that same person who you may have issues with sometimes in P1, Insead somehow ensures that you're in the same group with in P2. And, it's only after the fact that you realize that that little essay you wrote kind of gave the game away, I suppose, in terms of explaining what's been going on. So I ended up spending 4 months with a particularly challenging individual. And at the time, it felt tough. In fact, sometimes it was quite frustrating. I recall once shedding tears over this experience. And yet today I can smile about it because I'm truly thankful for it. I believe we both grew through it, and it left me much more prepared for what was to be a challenging business world out there. Because not everyone's going to see eye to eye with you from day one, and you need to have the strength and the tenacity and the confidence to bring your A game to the table every single time and to earn your place. It's definitely contributed to growing my career. I sometimes wonder how long it took me to realize that every single class at Insead is laced with strategy. I have a feeling it dawned on me in Kevin Kaiser's corporate finance class, and I know Kevin doesn't teach here any longer. I wondered why I joined his corporate finance class, because it was supposed to be a very challenging class, and the last thing I needed was an extra stretch. I already had a baby in tow, which made my experience a little more challenging. But maybe the stretch was why I did it. I don't know. But it turned out to be one of the most valuable classes I ever took at Insead. And I was telling a couple of people this afternoon that when I was at Insead, believe it or not, in this class, we actually did a case that was Microsoft versus Apple, and the decision was, this pile of junk called Apple, how much will we get rid of it for? And consider that only 13 short years later, it's one of the most valuable companies on the face of the planet. Makes me think, well, thank God we didn't sell it off. Every Inseader is a strategist. It comes in many guises, but in every single class, we are reminded and we are taught how to strategize. It's what we are, it's how we think, and it's what we do. And then there was another very instrumental professor at Insead. I can't speak about my experience without mentioning Erin Anderson. She taught me gaining market access, a class that would later prove pivotal because I went on to develop sales and marketing models in telecommunications, and gaining market access was very important to me in that time. She was an exemplary intellectual woman. She balanced her life so wonderfully with humility, grace, and patience. Just by being, she taught us a lot about how to be as leaders. And I was pleased that Erin took particular interest in me. I loved her class, but I was really baffled by the relevance and significance of her class for my future. One day I said to her, Erin, I really want to go back and work in Africa, and I really don't see how all this marketing and branding stuff is going to be any use to me. I need you to give me a reason for this, because I can't just go with heart and passion and what I like. She sat me down. And she told me about the evolution of business and marketing thinking, particularly from a US point of view. And then she told me something that I find even more true today than when she told me on this campus. She said to me that Africa was the most mismanaged brand on the face of this planet. That actually there hadn't been a very clear marketing strategy in her view, and it's a brand that had been thrown around. Did I fully understand what she meant at the time? Not quite. But today I fully understand what she meant, and as a business leader, it calls on me with the responsibility to help manage that brand. After Insead, it didn't end there. Erin went on to send me a Christmas card. And she also sent me a signed copy of the latest edition of her book, Gaining Market Access, which is still on my bookshelf today. And I must say, losing her is a deep loss to the academic and business communities of this world, and most importantly, to her family. You see, life is ultimately about human connection. Bruce Kogod taught me corporate governance at Insead, and he remains in my corner to this day. Even to this year, he said to me, "Can we meet for Christmas at some point?" And it was in his class that we discussed the case of the mining industry in South Africa. And the pivotal question we had to answer was, should the mining company take responsibility for the fact that some of their practices with their workers, whereby the workers had to live in dormitories, had created a situation where it kind of engendered and supported a lifestyle that promoted the contraction and spread of HIV. And I won't go into the ins and outs of what we discussed as a class, but my question to you would be, how will you, as business leaders, in a world that needs to progress together, what would you decide? How would you make those decisions if you were faced with that situation? Would you decide what they decided at the time, or would you decide differently? And so 13 years ago, I left Insead with a completely different lens through which I view the world. And over the years, that lens has sharpened in focus. Insead heightened my sense of responsibility. So if there's nothing else you remember from my speech today, please remember that you're stepping into a new world. It will look new in part because you have a greater responsibility to it. And it is that responsibility I want you to remember. I left Insead excited that I had secured a consulting job, and I'm sure some of you are in that position too. We all leave thinking that our continued success is tied to our immediate new role. Don't get me wrong, it matters. But our choices and decisions matter even more. Soon after leaving Insead, I realized that I was due to have my second son. So the question was, what do I do as a young mother with a toddler about to have a new baby? The law says that the company can't renege on their offer because of my new status. But what is best for me? I reflected on the requirements of this new job. There'd be travel, I was told. I would have to work very long hours, understandable. But for me, I wondered, how would my colleagues feel about the new woman who arrived pregnant? What would the implications be for my family? I decided not to go through with the role. And in as much as that sounds like a woman's dilemma, I think that throughout life you'll be faced with times when you have to decide what balance you want to strike between family and work, whether you're male or female. And of course, I was fortunate at the time to have the support of my husband. But don't get me wrong, I was professionally gutted that I did not walk out of Insead straight into this wonderful new role. So in that time, I decided to volunteer because I still believed that I had skills that were useful to the world. I volunteered with a startup that was fundraising for a tech park. And interestingly, that startup ended up being my very first experience in having to speak to a large group of people publicly. I'd argue that I've come a long way since then. The second thing I want you to remember is that if you're fortunate enough to already know which role you're going to, then enjoy the ride. But if you haven't got a role, remember that you need to be kind to yourself. You're an Inseader. Insead is a valuable calling card. It will pay off for decades to come. And so whatever happens from today, it'll all work out right in the end. I really pray that your personal needs will very soon fade, because when we talk about job, it sounds very personal. And I pray that as those needs fade into the background because they have been met, you'll be able to wield your power to positively impact the world. Never has our world needed more astute leadership. And by astute, I'm not just referring to your undeniable intellect. That's partly how you got here in the first place. But our world needs you to astutely demonstrate empathy for your fellow human being as you make decisions as a business leader. That you will use your positions and your privilege to positively drive progress wherever you find yourself in the world. You see, despite what you may read, our world is not progressing quickly enough on critical issues of economic equity, environmental protection, and the assurance of peace for all into our future, to name a few areas. It's as though for all our smarts, we cannot accept each other as worthy of the basics of human life around the globe. The excess of a few sometimes comes at the expense of many. I think this is fairly unacceptable. And yes, our technology is booming, but we are leaving too many behind on every single continent. There are many reasons for slow progress, but perhaps to me, the most important is that we do not have enough of a critical mass of decision makers who care about these things. Of course, there's a superstar leader with hubris, who in my opinion does not really count as a leader. And he has become to dominate our airwaves, causing many of us to lose sight of what it truly means to lead. We forget that when these leaders are faced with tough calls or they're faced with tough situations, they just shrug their shoulders and say, "It wasn't me." Leadership shines or wanes when faced with true adversity. And until you faced adversity, it's very hard to call yourself truly a leader. So please participate in ethical leadership. It's our imperative. Choose your leadership deliberately. But it's your graduation day. My graduation day was a joyous occasion. I'm sure yours is too. But it was also a day of anxiety. 7/7/2005 was also the day of the London bombings. And as we sat here and we tried to celebrate, there were people in London who were anxious. And I wish we lived in a world where that experience of anxiety is not the case today. But we continue to have people for whom that sort of anxiety is a daily reality. That's why I say our world needs you. Our world needs you to commit to change. Our world needs you and your belief in better. Our world needs you to create new visions of the future, that imagined reality that Ilian spoke about. What's your new vision of our world? Our world needs your commitment to action that creates a new future. Don't get me wrong, we have many managers, we have many innovators. But management and innovation are no longer enough. They're just a great starting point. More than anything else, our world needs you to lead for good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy, for your insights on the journey and the journey to come for our graduates in the future. Families, friends, guests, did I mention that Insead MBA is really intense and diverse? No? Never heard? Okay. Now all that intensity and diversity is great, but it makes Insead probably the hardest business school to teach at. in the world. So we breed some of the best teachers, and it is thus a huge honor to be nominated for a teaching prize. Can I please ask Antoine Molas to come and represent the student body for giving out your 2018 denominations and winners?
Thank you. I have them here. Great. Good afternoon. So, I am proud to present, on behalf of the student body, the Faculty Teaching Awards. So there will be 4 awards. The first one for the core courses in Fontainebleau, a second one for the core courses in Singapore, a third one for electives in Fontainebleau, and the last one for electives in Singapore. So let's start with the Faculty Teaching Awards for core courses in Fontainebleau. So the nominees are Stephen Monahan for Financial Accounting, Theos Evgeniu for Uncertainty, Data and Judgment, and Gianpiero Petrelli for Business and Society Ethics. And the winner is Stephen Monahan for Financial Accounting.
Thank you. This is an honor for 2 reasons. The first one is I was chosen from a great group of peers. Insead professors are very good teachers. The second one is because you chose me, and I mean that sincerely. You're a demanding bunch. You're hard, you're difficult, you're tough, and that makes me a better teacher. And it forces me to learn. Like, I have to think about how to say things better. I have to think about questions like, why am I even in this room with you? And that's really useful. And I guess my only advice to you is really simple. Just keep doing that. Keep being the same. Keep being demanding. Keep being tough. Because, yes, if you want to build a better world, we need to do the right thing. But if you want to do the right thing, you have to know what the right thing is. And knowing is part of knowledge. And to get knowledge, it's not easy. You have to ask hard questions. You have to be demanding and tough. So thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, thank you, Steve. Now let's move to the Faculty Teaching Award for core courses in Singapore. And the nominees are Antonio Fatas for Macroeconomics in a Global Economy, Federico Gavazzoni for Financial Markets and Valuation, and Philip Parker for Managing Customer Value. And the winner is Federico Gavazzoni for Financial Markets and Valuation. So, unfortunately, Federico could not be with us today. However, he recorded a small video for us.
Hello everybody, and congratulations for your graduation at Insead. I wish I could tell you that with such a great degree, your career out there is going to be super smooth and fantastic no matter what you do. Unfortunately, you know that that's not the case. But after so many years at Insead, I've learned one thing. I've learned that what you learn in those 10-12 months is giving you a package of knowledge, both in terms of business principles and human interaction, that is going to help you a lot to have a good start. So please go out there and have fun with your career. But please remember one thing. As we say in class many times, do not forget the basics. The basics work in FMV, in the first course of finance in the MBA, and they work out there in the real world as well. 1 + 1 is equal to 2, also in the real world. So please go out there, have fun, innovate, but do not forget that 1 + 1 will always be equal to 2. If you want to convince it to be equal to 3, you're going to make a huge mistake. So please go out there, have fun, and do not make huge mistakes. Bye-bye, and congratulations again.
Okay, let's move to the third category. So now we are switching to electives. So the first elective award for Faculty Teaching Award, Electives in Fontainebleau. The nominees are Guillaume Rolls for Competitive Supply Chains, Henning Piesunka for New Business Ventures, and Massimo Massa for Applied Corporate Finance. And the winner is Henning Piesunka for New Business Venture.
Thank you so much for this award. This means a lot. What we do in the class, New Business Ventures, for those of who were not thinking about taking that class actually, is so we talk about how you transform an idea into a business. But as we go on this journey, we're actually talking about whaling in the 18th century. We talk about the race to the South Pole. We talk about the establishment of democracy in the 1980s in Spain. And what has impressed me most about teaching at Insead is the intellectual curiosity about the students. They're very keen on going on this journey. They're never looking for easy answers, but instead are really kind of embracing the complex questions, and they put in the hard work which is necessary to solve it. So in that sense, I very much kind of agree with what you said in the beginning. Whatever you read about these MBA students, this award actually says more about the students than it says about me. It says about the students that they want to go on this journey and are interested in these kind of questions. I would like to close in thanking a few people. The first I would like to thank for the families and the friends who have financed this whole show, basically, right? A lot of families have put a lot of effort and savings and energies in making these MBAs possible. So what Lucy said, it sometimes takes an army to get an MBA, is true for a lot of you, right? And so thanks to everybody who had a hand in that, and I know it's a lot. The student puts in the work, but a lot of people have kind of put effort in. The second group I would like to thank for is the students. The people who actually like this class today should actually kind of thank the alumni who have taken my class and actually kind of taught me what I'm talking about and stuff like this. So you could never take the same class again because I've learned more from you and the next class will hopefully better. The third group I would like to thank for are my colleagues. And this is very important, this is underestimated. It's very nice to stand here and I go home with this award, but which is incredibly important, right? You see, like, take somebody like Ilian. He has won multiple teaching awards, but what he then does is that he kind of helps to establish iLight together with Giampiero Petriglieri, and what they actually do is that they foster other people to grow. They're not kind of grabbing everything from themselves. He could be sitting up here and get award after award, and what they do instead is that they devote their time and energy and kind of growing other leaders and growing other people to kind of create value. So thank you so much for all the effort you've put in. Thank you, and best of luck.
So, thank you, Henning. So finally, the last award for Faculty Teaching Award, Elective Courses in Singapore. The nominees are Michael Witt for Strategies for Asia Pacific, Horacio Falsao for Negotiations, and Neil Bearden for Storytelling Workshop. And the winner is Michael Witt. So, unfortunately, Michael could not be with us today. However, he has sent us a quick note for me to read. So, many thanks for the good news. Please thank everyone on my behalf. I am sorry to say I will not be around for the graduation in Fontainebleau. My regrets. The 18Ds were a great group, a pleasure to work with. I have no doubt that this class has a great future ahead of itself, and I look forward to hearing of everyone's achievements in the years to come. All the best, Michael.
Thank you, Antoine. It's now time to hear from your chosen valedictorian speaker. Please help welcome on stage Kayla Daly.
Thank you again, Dean Per. There's going to be a bit more clapping, so be warned. Good afternoon, deans, staff and faculty, family and friends, alumni, and most especially, good afternoon, 18D! Exactly, so when I pause, you clap. My name is Mubeke Lolua Kayla Daly, and everyone calls me Koye for obvious reasons. And I was born in Ibadan, an old town in the south of Nigeria. Last December, I moved away from home to start a year at Insead that has turned out to be the most challenging and yet the best year of my life. I know this is also true for many people in my class, and I am grateful to now have the difficult job of trying to sum up this amazing year. Thank you, 18D. The past few weeks have been full of emotion. We have applauded our professors for the last time, hugged each other goodbye, and maybe even cried a few times. I was especially guilty of that one. This year was beautiful and filled with good things, learning, friendship, opportunity, and it is difficult to leave. Today is very special because it marks a bittersweet and yet hopeful end to the incredible year that we have shared. More than that, it also marks the beginning of an exciting new chapter in our lives with new perspectives, new challenges, and new dreams. Before we continue, however, I have the privilege to convey our appreciation to the many people who have made this year special. As all of Student Council is graduating in Singapore, I also get to thank the staff and faculty of Insead. Whether here in France, Singapore, or at home across the world, our partners have contributed immensely to the Insead experience. I had the opportunity to go through this year with my wife, Busola, through whom I met many delightful partners. Thank you for all your support, 18D partners. And this is where we clap for them again. Special shout outs to the cute Insead babies, those who were here this year, those who were conceived this year, and those whose parents met this year. I would also like to thank our loved ones. My mother and Busola's mother came all the way from Nigeria to be here today, like many of our families have, and that is really special. It takes a village, like we say in Africa, or an army, if you are from Ghana, and many of us have relied heavily on friends and family outside the Insead bubble this year. Whether our loved ones are here today or not, I am certain they are proud of us, and we are grateful to them. To the delightful staff and faculty of Insead, from providing career coaching to booking appointments with French dentists, surely it must be difficult to coordinate hundreds of energetic MBA students. Yet, the amazing people at Insead make it look very easy, and they do it with warm smiles. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's going to be one more round of applause, and then we'll get on with it. I often sat in amphitheaters and wondered at the brilliance and diverse experiences of my classmates. Standing here today, I realized that the flip side of all that diversity and brilliance is that it must be very difficult to teach at Insead. Thank you, professors, for all that you do. You are among the finest in the world, and it was a real pleasure to learn from you. Because this is such a pivotal moment, I have been reflecting a lot on the past and looking to the future. I wanted to be a pilot as a child. Now I'm going to be a consultant. Many of my books were about children in other countries, and I wanted to get on a plane and fly to all those countries. I wanted to see how they lived, where their parents worked, and what they ate. I would often sit outside and wave to planes as they passed above our house, imagining that the passengers could see me if they looked out the window. Nigeria is a big and mostly self-contained country, though, and we did not need to fly anywhere. In fact, I did not get on a plane or travel to another country at all until I was 23. Time passed and my dreams evolved. I went on to study mechanical engineering, but I was drawn to goods and services that people use often to improve the quality of their lives, so I started a career in the consumer goods industry. However, I never stopped looking up at those planes and eventually looking down from them and wondering about the world outside. I wanted to travel across the world, learn about humanity, and ponder our shared future with people who had grown up elsewhere. Therefore, when it was time to choose a business school, I faced a relatively straightforward choice. I was drawn to a melting pot, to a small village frozen in time where cultures from 74 countries could fuse and meld together, where almost everyone shared my curiosity about the world outside. I was drawn to you, 18D. I was drawn to the Insead spirit. The Insead spirit is curious. Like it drew me here, that curiosity drew all of us here from all over, from Australia, Brazil, Senegal, and Serbia, from corporate jobs and research laboratories, from battlefields even, to learn about business, ourselves, and our world. That curiosity drove us to ask questions and challenge our biases inside and outside the classroom, pushing us to become better and well-rounded individuals. That curiosity drove many of my classmates to ask me about Nigeria and Africa, giving me an opportunity to provide balance to the single stories that the media repeats and to share some of the beauty and opportunity of the continent. As we look to the future, 18D, I hope we never lose our sense of wonder. I hope we never stop asking tough questions of ourselves and others. The Insead spirit is friendly and welcoming, and 18D embodied this spirit to the fullest. We embodied it as we formed strong bonds on weekend trips, at music jams, over football games at Freddy's, and over many rugby games. We welcomed each other with open arms and quickly formed our own tribe, complete with our own party anthem. When Busola fell ill while I was away on a study trip, our friend from Insead, Kali, went with her to the hospital and stayed with her till she was well. We even gave practice interviews to people who were applying for the same jobs as we were. This year will fade into a blur at some point, and we will forget all about queuing models and linear regression. Sorry, Theos. But many of us will still be friends forever, and that might be what counts the most. The Insead spirit is generous and fun. It drove us to walk through the cold in Fontainebleau and the rain in Singapore to build playgrounds for children. It drove us to raise funds for the Robin Hood campaign to help deserving candidates get an education that can change their lives. It drove us to laugh wildly at the jokes during applesauce, even when we were not sure that all of them were all that funny. It reminds us that business does not have to be war, that it does not have to be so serious all the time. The Insead spirit promotes interconnectedness and diversity. When you bring together people from all over, Pakistanis and Indians, Ukrainians and Russians, Mexicans and Americans, walls come down and magical things happen. We have explored mountains and islands, designed nonprofits, and started businesses together. At a time when nationalism seems to be advancing again and globalization is under threat, the Insead spirit calls out with the reminder that we are stronger together. I spoke a few times this year about how I have had to be lucky many times to be standing here today. If someone had told me when I was 11 and looking up at those planes that I would someday study at this fine business school, I would have laughed them off. I have had to work very hard to be here, but I have also been privileged to be in the right place at the right time and to benefit from the kindness of others. I am grateful for the Insead Scholarship Program, the donors who give to Insead, and in my case, for Olam International. Your journey may have been very different from mine, but Etindi, we are all privileged, even if we don't feel so sometimes. This causes me to wonder about my, and in fact our, responsibility to the world as we leave Insead with our shiny new diplomas. After all, to whom much is given, from him or her, much shall be expected. I thought hard about this, seeking something deep and profound to share with you today. In the end, though, I found that it is quite simple. We owe it to ourselves and to Insead to be missionaries of the Insead spirit, to share the bug of curiosity, open-mindedness, innovation, friendship, and our belief in interconnectedness and diversity. We owe it to ourselves to leverage our learning, privilege, and networks to go back into the world and deploy business as a force for good. It is hard to walk away from this amazing year and this beautiful place. Fontainebleau was good to us, Singapore was also, and this is a great time to thank the representatives of the leadership of Fontainebleau. I used to judge alumni for describing this year as the best year of their lives, but now I understand. All good things come to an end, though, and the world awaits. Today's challenges cannot be solved with yesterday's thinking or approaches, and the world awaits you and me, bold leaders who understand that business has a responsibility to society, that you should not have to choose between making profits and doing what is right for our planet, its people, and its resources. As we go on, Etindi, we can do better than look back on this year as the best year of our lives. Let us make it the start of the best years of our lives. Let us set out to pursue our wildest dreams, confident in our ability to achieve whatever we set ourselves to, and knowing we have a community of over 500 people across the planet cheering us on. This is not goodbye, E9 and Etindi. This is see you again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mekpo Keloluwa. Yeah. Well done. So we're getting to the degree granting thing. But before we go there, I'd like to give a shout out to those who are on the Dean's list. That is the top 10% of the class graduating today. I think we have them listed here. So please, let's applaud and find your name. And so the highest GPA is going to be the Ford Prize winner, and that person will be in Singapore. So watch on Thursday. Can I now please ask the MBA team to come up, and we will start, what? There is a waving. Yeah, come. Okay, we'll get going with granting the degrees. You come up this way, I think. We'll do a photo. And then you go down that way. Ready?
Okay.
Change the slide.
Okay. Here we go. Redouane Ahmed. José Almeida Araujo. Fernando Alonso Burgas. Luis Aratil. Nelson Garodetti Aubert. Mourad Baklouti. Marco Imafuku. Ryan Burnsman. Lamia Biaz. Melina Bulcao. Adrian Kacinero Vasilievich. Julien Campon. Charlotte Marie Cannon. Salma Debar. Daniel De Gaspari Fresati. Akash Daya. Roger Douglas. Eliseo Santos. Jorge Fontubel Saez. Kenneth Forsyth. Stanislav Gayduk. Verity Howells. Alyssa Huang. Rashid Iaev. Christopher Scott Jeffrey. Andreas Kaltenbrunner. Mobeke Lolua Koye Ladele. Andrés Lázaro Soler. Bruno Lima. Guilherme Lima Afonso. Giuliano Longo. Patrick McDougall Strea. Peter Measham. Antoine Molas. Peter Morgan. Victor Nalen. Antal Neville. Felipe Nieto. Damian Papadopoulos. Caroline Pyries. Quentin Pouquet. Benedict Scheffer with distinction. Amanda Schlumpf. Rafael Siqueira. Fatoumata Si. Derek van Brussel. Cher Walid Zaki. Vivian Zhang.
All right. So now can I please ask everyone to stand up? This is for the official graduation act. And the graduates, please get your hats ready. By the power vested in me, by the Insead faculty and the board, I hereby declare the MBA class of December 2018 officially graduated!